There's a room in your life you refuse to enter. You walk past it every day. You feel its presence. You know it's there. And something inside you knows that's where your freedom lies. You've built an entire existence around not feeling certain things. Not that grief. Not that shame. Not that loneliness you tasted once and swore you'd never touch again. And it's remarkable. Really, the architecture we construct to keep ourselves safe. The routines that feel like living but are really just elaborate detours. The relationships that keep us occupied but never quite reached. The ambitions that sparkle from a distance but dissolve when we get close. We become experts at distraction, masters of the shallow breath. We scroll when stillness approaches. We speak when silence threatens. We plan when the present moment asks us to simply be with what is. But here's what nobody tells you about avoidance. It's expensive. Not in money, in life force. Every ounce of energy you spend running from a feeling is energy stolen from your actual existence. Every wall you build to keep pain out also keeps aliveness in. The numbness you cultivate to avoid suffering doesn't discriminate, it numbs the joy too. You think you're protecting yourself. You think you're being smart, strategic, self-preserving. But protection and prison are separated by the thinnest of lines. Think about it. What do you do when a difficult emotion surfaces? When that familiar ache begins to rise in your chest, that tightness in your throat, that hollow feeling in your stomach, you reach for your phone. You make plans. You eat something. You work harder. You think about the future. You replay the past. You do anything but feel what's actually here. And it works. Temporarily. The feeling recedes. You breathe easier. You tell yourself you've handled it. But it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just relocated. Moved from the center of your awareness to the basement of your being. And down there, in the dark, it waits. It organizes itself. It gathers strength. Because avoided pain doesn't disappear. It compounds. It becomes the anxiety you can't explain. The irritation that seems to come from nowhere. The heaviness you wake up with. The restlessness that no achievement satisfies. The emptiness that no possession fills. You think you have problems with discipline, with motivation, with other people, with your circumstances. But often, what you really have is a backlog of unfelt feelings running your life from the shadows. The grief you wouldn't cry becomes the depression you can't shake. The anger you wouldn't express becomes the resentment that poisons everything. The fear you wouldn't face becomes the paralysis that stops you from living. And the tragic part, the thing you're avoiding isn't nearly as dangerous as the avoidance itself. The pain you're running from is finite. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you would just turn toward it, move through it, let it complete itself in your body, it would pass. But the pattern of avoidance, that's infinite. It can consume your entire life. So let's talk about what that door really is, the one you've been refusing to walk through. It's not dramatic. It's not a breakdown or a catastrophe or the end of who you are. It's simply what you've been unwilling to feel. That conversation you need to have but keep postponing. That truth about your life you can see but won't speak. That dream you've buried because wanting it hurt too much. That version of yourself you abandoned because it felt too vulnerable to maintain. The door is made of whatever you've labeled as too much, too painful, too scary, too overwhelming, too shameful, too sad, too angry, too intense, too raw, too real. And here's the profound part, Beyond that door is not more pain, it's you. The you that exists before the performance, before the persona, before the protective strategies and the people pleasing in the perfect image. The you that feels deeply and loves wholly and grieves honestly and rages when something matters and softens, when touched by beauty. The alive you. See, we spend our lives trying to become something successful, enlightened, healed, whole, better, different. We chase transformation like it's a destination we haven't reached yet. But transformation isn't about becoming. It's about return. Returning to what you actually are when you stop abandoning yourself. Returning to the completeness that exists before you fragment yourself to fit into everyone else's comfort zones. Every spiritual tradition points to the same truth. You're not broken, you're armored. You're not incomplete, you're protected. You're not inadequate, you're hidden. And the thing you're hiding behind, it's pain you wouldn't feel, vulnerability you wouldn't risk, authenticity you deemed too dangerous. The door you're avoiding, it doesn't lead to your destruction. It leads to your liberation. Because on the other side of unfelt grief is genuine joy. On the other side of unspoken truth is real intimacy. On the other side of avoided fear is actual courage. But you have to walk through. You have to feel what you've been running from. Not because suffering is noble, not because pain is the path, but because wholeness includes everything. You can't selectively numb. You can't pick your humanity. If you close yourself to heartbreak, you close yourself to love. If you defend against sadness, you defend against depth. If you armor against hurt, you armor against connection. The door isn't punishing you. It's inviting you back to yourself, back to fullness, back to the messy, beautiful, painful, ecstatic wholeness of being human. So what does it actually look like to walk through? It starts with naming it, not analyzing it, not fixing it, just acknowledging it. I've been avoiding grief. I've been running from this fear. I've been unwilling to feel how lonely I am. Just that. Name what's true without immediately trying to make it different. Then, and this is the hardest part, give it 5 minutes. Not 5 hours. Not a whole breakdown. Just 5 minutes where you stop running. Sit down. Put your hand on your heart and let yourself feel what you've been avoiding. Don't judge it. Don't narrate it. Don't make it mean something about your worth or your progress or your spiritual status. Just feel it in your body, in this moment. Let the tightness be tight. Let the heaviness be heavy. Let the ache be exactly as big as it is. And notice you survive it. It doesn't destroy you. It moves through you. It changes shape. It releases. This is the great secret. Feelings are not problems to solve. They're energies to allow. When you stop resisting them, they stop controlling you. The pain you avoid is the door you're meant to walk through, not because life is cruel, but because life is whole. And you cannot be whole while leaving parts of yourself outside in the cold. Your liberation isn't on the other side of never hurting again. It's on the other side of being willing to feel everything. And on that side, you'll find you were never actually broken, just beautifully, impossibly, courageously human. You know what's more painful than pain? Spending your whole life trying not to feel it. We live in a civilization built on comfort. Every innovation, every convenience, every technological advancement is designed to reduce friction, eliminate discomfort, smooth out the rough edges of existence. And there's beauty in that, medicine that heals, shelter that protects, connection that spans continents. But somewhere along the way, we extended this logic to our inner lives. We began to believe that a good life is a comfortable life, that emotional pain is a problem to eliminate, that the goal is to feel good, always, or at least to feel nothing at all. So we optimize, we medicate, we manifest, we affirm, we spiritually bypass, we self-help ourselves into numbness and call it growth. And then we wonder why we feel so empty, why success feels hollow, why relationships feel superficial, why achievement after achievement leaves us just as restless as before. Here's why you cannot selectively avoid. The mechanism that protects you from pain is the same mechanism that prevents you from joy. When you build walls to keep the darkness out, you also keep the light out. When you close the door on heartbreak, you also close the door on love. When you numb yourself to avoid suffering, you also numb yourself to aliveness. It's not a trade-off. It's a package deal. Think about the moments you felt most alive, not most comfortable, not most secure, most alive. Chances are they were moments of intensity, moments where something real was at stake, moments where your heart was exposed, your defenses were down, where you were feeling everything. Maybe it was falling in love terrifying and exhilarating. Maybe it was creating something meaningful, vulnerable, and thrilling. Maybe it was facing a loss devastating and somehow deepening. These weren't comfortable moments. They were real ones. And somewhere deep down, you know this? You know that the flattened, managed, comfortable existence you've created isn't actually what you came here for. You came here to feel, to love hard, to grieve deeply, to be shattered and remade, to touch the full spectrum of human experience. But instead, we've been taught to stay in the middle. Don't get too high. Don't drop too low. Maintain equilibrium. Stay balanced. Keep it together. And yes, there's wisdom in groundedness, in not being tossed around by every emotional wave. But there's a difference between equanimity and suppression. Equanimity is being stable while feeling everything. Suppression is pretending you feel nothing in order to appear stable. One is freedom. The other is imprisonment masquerading as peace. Let me tell you what nobody wants to hear. Your avoidance is creating the very suffering you're trying to escape. The anxiety isn't random. It's all the fear you wouldn't face, circulating in your system with nowhere to go. The depression isn't a chemical imbalance. It's the life force you've been suppressing, turned inward because it had no outward expression. The emptiness isn't because you haven't achieved enough, it's because you've abandoned the parts of yourself that actually feel, that actually care, that actually want something. We think we're protecting ourselves by avoiding pain, but what we're really doing is fragmenting ourselves. Every time you push away a feeling, you exile a part of yourself. You send a message. This part of you is not acceptable. This feeling is not welcome. This truth cannot be spoken. And that part doesn't disappear. It just goes into hiding, and from the shadows, it runs your life. The anger you wouldn't express becomes passive aggression. The sadness you wouldn't cry becomes chronic fatigue. The desire you wouldn't own becomes vague dissatisfaction. The truth you wouldn't speak becomes physical tension. Your body keeps the score. Your unconscious mind keeps the receipts. And eventually, the bill comes due. Sometimes it comes as illness, sometimes as breakdown, sometimes as a life that just stops working, relationships that fail, dreams that die, a soul that goes quiet. This is the cost of comfort, the price of avoidance, not immediate, not obvious, but absolute. Now here's the liberating truth: the door is still there, no matter how long you've been avoiding it, no matter how much you've built your life around not walking through it, no matter how convinced you are that you can't handle what's on the other side, the door remains, waiting, patient, inviting. And walking through isn't about having a breakdown. It's not about becoming dysfunctional or losing your grip on life. It's about integration, bringing the exiled parts home, feeling the unfelt feelings, speaking the unspoken truths, owning the dissound desires. It's about becoming whole instead of just appearing fine. And here's what happens when you do: the energy you were using to avoid, to manage, to control, to suppress it becomes available for living. Suddenly you have capacity you didn't know you had, creativity that flows, presence that deepens, love that expands, purpose that clarifies, not because you achieved something, but because you stopped spending all your energy running from yourself. The mystics knew this. The poets sang it. The wise ones whispered it across centuries. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty. It's the capacity to be with what is. So here's the practice: you start telling the truth. Not to everyone, not dramatically, but to yourself in quiet moments. What am I avoiding? What feeling have I been unwilling to feel? What conversation have I been postponing? What truth have I been dancing around? Write it down if you need to. Say it out loud to the mirror. Whisper it in the dark. Just stop pretending you don't know. Because you do know. You've always known. And then take one small step toward it. Not the whole journey. Not the complete transformation. Just one step. Send the text you've been putting off. Feel the grief for 5 minutes instead of distracting yourself. Admit the desire you've been denying. Speak the truth you've been swallowing. One step through the door, and notice the sky doesn't fall. You don't disintegrate. You don't become the pain. You just become more you, more real, more present, more alive. The comfort you've been choosing is costing you your life. Not all at once, just slowly, quietly. One avoided feeling at a time. But today, right now, you can choose differently. You can walk toward what you've been running from. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because beyond that door, beyond the pain you've been avoiding, is the life you've been longing for. And it's been waiting for you all along. What if the thing you think is ruining your life is actually trying to remake it? There's an old story about a man who spent his whole life trying to get rid of his shadow. He ran from it. He fought it. He cursed it. He prayed for it to disappear. One day, exhausted, he finally stopped running and turned around. And he realized the shadow wasn't chasing him. It was just following. Always had been. The moment he stopped running, the shadow stopped too. They stood there together, in stillness, and he understood it was never his enemy. It was just part of the landscape of being human. This is what we do with pain. We treat it like an intruder, a mistake, evidence that something has gone terribly wrong with our lives. We don't ask, what is this here to show me? We ask, how do I make this go away? We don't wonder, what wants to be born from this? We demand, when will this be over? But pain, real pain, soul pain, the kind that cracks you open is never random. It's never meaningless. It's information. Information about what needs to change. About what you've been ignoring. About where you've been betraying yourself. About what's ready to die so something truer can live. The breakdown you're terrified of. It might be the breakthrough waiting to happen. The heartbreak that feels like it's destroying you. It might be destroying the version of love that was too small for your soul. The loss that's leveling you. It might be clearing space for something you didn't even know you needed. But you'll never know if you don't stop running, if you don't turn around, if you don't walk through that door and let yourself be with what's actually here. Here's the secret that changes everything. Transformation doesn't happen despite the pain. It happens inside it. Not after you've processed it perfectly. Not once you've healed completely. Not when you're finally over it. Right there. In the middle of it. In the raw, messy, impossible center of what you thought you couldn't survive. This is where you find out who you actually are. Not the persona you present. Not the story you've been telling. But the you that exists beneath all the strategies and defenses and roles. The you that feels, that breaks, that doubts, that fears, that grieves, that rages. And somehow impossibly that also endures. There's a line in Rumi that says, "The wound is the place where the light enters you, not the scar, not after the healing, the wound itself. Because it's in the breaking open that we discover what we're made of. It's in the falling apart that we learn we were never as fragile as we thought. It's in the losing that we find what can't be taken. Every spiritual tradition knows this. Every wisdom path points here. The dark night of the soul, the descent into the underworld, the belly of the whale, the crucifixion before the resurrection. These aren't metaphors for pathology. They're maps of transformation. They're saying there is a door. It looks like death. It feels like ending. But it's actually a beginning. You can't skip it. You can't outsmart it. You can't think your way around it. You have to walk through. And what you discover on the other side isn't that the pain was worth it. It's that the pain was doing something. It was burning away everything false, everything performative, everything you thought you needed, but was actually just weighing you down. It was stripping you down to essence, to truth, to the core of who you are when everything else falls away. And that person, the one who emerges from the fire, they're not damaged, they're not less, they're not broken. They're real in a way they've never been before. They speak truth because they've tasted what happens when you don't. They love deeply because they know what it costs to hold back. They live fully because they've touched how temporary everything is. They've walked through the door, and it changed them, not by destroying them, but by revealing them. So let me ask you, what if you stopped treating your pain like a problem? What if, just for a moment, you asked it, what are you here to teach me? Not to romanticize it, not to justify it, just to listen to it. Because your pain knows things your comfort doesn't. It knows where you've been settling, where you've been silencing yourself, where you've been living half alive, because fully alive felt too risky. Your pain is a messenger, and the message is usually some version of something here needs to change. Not your circumstances, necessarily, but your relationship to them, your willingness to feel them, your courage to act on what you know. So try this next time pain shows up. Don't immediately reach for a way to fix it, numb it, or explain it away. Just sit with it. Breathe with it. Ask it what it wants you to know. And then this is the crucial part: be willing to let it change you. Not break you, change you. Let it soften what's been hard. Let it open what's been closed. Let it reveal what's been hidden. Let it be the doorway it actually is. The transformation you're seeking isn't on the other side of avoiding pain. It's inside the pain you've been avoiding. That door you've been refusing to walk through. It doesn't lead to your breaking. It leads to your becoming. And the version of you on the other side, the one who's felt it all and lived to tell about it, that's the one you've been looking for all along. So walk through, even if your hands are shaking, especially then, because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to feel it and move forward anyway. You spend your whole life building a prison to keep yourself safe. And then one day you realize you're the one holding the key. Let's talk about what actually happens when you finally walk through that door. When you stop running. When you turn toward the pain you've been avoiding and say, okay, I'm here. Show me. First, there's the fear. Of course there is. Your entire system has been organized around not feeling this thing. Your routines, your relationships, your entire identity has been constructed to keep this pain at bay. So when you turn toward it, every alarm goes off. Every defense mechanism activates. Your mind will give you 1,000 reasons to turn back, to wait, to prepare more, to choose a better time. And you have to walk through anyway. Not because you're certain you can handle it, but because you're finally willing to find out. And then, and this is the part no one prepares you for, the feeling itself. It rises, it intensifies, it feels impossibly big, and you think, this is it. This is what I've been afraid of. I was right to avoid this. But then you keep breathing, you keep allowing. You keep your hand on your heart and you stay, and something remarkable happens. It peaks. The feeling peaks. And then it begins to move through. Not away, not disappearing, but through you, like a wave, like weather passing through a landscape. And you realize you're not the feeling. You're the space in which the feeling is happening. You're not the grief. You're the presence that can hold grief. You're not the fear. You're the awareness that can witness fear. You're not the pain. You're the consciousness vast enough to contain it. This is the first revelation. You are bigger than what you feel. Not better than. Not above. Just larger. More spacious. More capable than you believed. And from this realization comes the second. Nothing you feel can destroy you. It can move through you, transform you, reshape you, but not destroy you. Because the you that you actually are, the awareness, the presence, the consciousness itself, is indestructible. It's been here before the pain. It will be hereafter. It's steady, witnessing, allowing. This is the freedom on the other side of the door. Not the absence of pain, but the end of fear. Not the end of fear of external things, loss, death, rejection, but the end of fear of your own inner experience. You're no longer afraid of what you might feel, which means you're no longer controlled by it. You can take the risk because you know you can handle the heartbreak. You can speak the truth because you can sit with the discomfort. You can love fully because you're not terrified of losing, not because you're numb, not because you don't care, but because you've walked through the fire and discovered you're fireproof. Not in a way that means you don't burn, but in a way that means you burn and remain. This is what the mystics mean by freedom, what the Buddhists call liberation, what the poets gesture toward when they write about becoming whole. It's not transcendence. It's not escape. It's not some blissed out state where you never suffer. It's the profound, ordinary miracle of being fully human, fully feeling, fully alive, fully here, and from this place everything changes. You stop performing and start being. You stop managing and start living. You stop controlling and start participating. You show up to your relationships without armor. You pursue your dreams without hedging. You speak your truth without rehearsing, not because you've become fearless, but because you're no longer afraid of fear itself, not because you've eliminated pain, but because you're no longer in a war with it. This is the paradox, the freedom you've been seeking through avoidance only comes through acceptance. The peace you've been trying to achieve by controlling your feelings only arrives when you stop controlling them. The wholeness you've been pursuing by pushing parts of yourself away only emerges when you welcome everything back. And suddenly, the pain that you thought was your enemy reveals itself as your teacher. The wound you thought would destroy you becomes the portal to your liberation. Not because pain is good, not because suffering is noble, but because nothing human is foreign to you anymore. You've been to the depths, you've touched the darkness, you've felt the full weight of being alive, and you're still here, still breathing, still capable of joy and wonder and love, maybe even more capable than before, because now you know you can hold it all. So where do you go from here? You practice every day, in small ways. You practice being with discomfort instead of immediately trying to fix it. You practice staying when your impulse is to run. You practice feeling instead of thinking about feeling. You make the choice again and again to walk toward what's real instead of what's comfortable. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, it gets easier. Not because the feelings become less intense, but because your capacity expands, your tolerance increases, your trust deepens. You begin to recognize the pattern sensation arises, peaks, passes, always, and you stop believing the story that this time will be different. This time it will destroy you. This time you won't survive. You've survived every single difficult moment of your life so far. Every heartbreak, every loss, every fear realized, every worst case scenario. You have a 100% track record of getting through hard things. So why would this time be any different? It wouldn't. It won't. It isn't. You'll feel it. You'll breathe through it. You'll let it move. And you'll remain. And from this knowing, you begin to live differently. Not perfectly. Not fearlessly. Free to risk. Free to love. Free to try. Free to fail. Free to be exactly who you are, with all your complexity and contradiction and beautiful, messy humanity. The pain you avoid is the door you're meant to walk through, not because life is cruel, not because you deserve to suffer, but because that door is the only way home, home to yourself, home to wholeness, home to the freedom that's been waiting for you on the other side of your fear. You don't have to walk through perfectly. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be willing. Willing to feel what you've been avoiding. Willing to face what you've been running from. Willing to become who you actually are instead of who you've been pretending to be. And when you do, when you finally, courageously, impossibly walk through that door, you'll discover that you weren't walking into darkness. You were walking into yourself, and that's where the light was all along. So take the step, feel the fear, open the door. Your freedom is waiting, and it always has been.